Good evening, everyone. I'm Laura Ingraham. This is the Ingraham Angle from Washington tonight. As always, thank you for joining us. Protesters with privilege. That's the focus of tonight's angle. Yep, they want to destroy our history. It's a disgrace. That's the Rochambeau statue across from the White House in Lafayette Park. Now, he was a commander in the French army who helped America during the Revolutionary War. And that's what happens when radical leftists and Hamas sympathizers take over the park. Now, thousands showed up to protest. So, question I had all week, where was law enforcement? Well, there was this poor guy. Yeah, assaulted. And when police tried to step in one time, this happened. The Park Police, the D.C. Metro Police, and Secret Service all knew that this protest was happening weeks ago. So it's unclear why statues weren't protected, given what happened to the same park, in the same park on Memorial Day 2020. We were there. Now, we have criminals on video assaulting police officers, committing crimes. And look, yeah, we understand that there are no plans to prosecute anyone, that the protest is described as largely peaceful. Now, in Florida, Iowa, Tennessee, if vandals were caught on camera doing what these freaks were doing, they'd be arrested and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. But in liberal areas, if you're a Democrat or someone that the Democrats are trying to court to vote for them, then you never have to worry. And these protesters knew this.
President Biden certainly, unlike President Trump, supports the freedom of speech and the freedom of expression. So obviously these protesters are exercising their right, and that is their right to do.
Well, these are among the most privileged people out there. They can do stuff in blue states, liberal jurisdictions, or as we saw on college campuses, and they can get away with it. Total impunity. Here are the laws that can and should be used against these anti-American anarchists. 18 U.S.C. 1361 is the destruction of federal property. It authorizes a penalty of up to 10 years imprisonment for the willful injury of federal property. And in the midst of the 2020 riots, the Trump administration issued smartly an executive order protecting American monuments and memorials, noting that it's the policy of the U.S. Department of Justice to prosecute to the fullest extent of the law any person destroying, damaging, vandalizing, or desecrating a monument, memorial, or statue within the U.S. or otherwise damages government property. But with Biden in office, common sense and the rule of law are out the window. Law is supposed to apply across the board to all. But we have two sets of laws, one for friends of the regime and one for the enemies of the regime, or they think of the enemies of the regime, who should expect to, be persecuted whenever possible. So what happened to the pro-life demonstrators put in prison for years, the January 6th defendants hunted down, and of course what we're seeing happening to President Trump. But the fact is, Biden, Kamala Harris, Merrick Garland, and all these college administrators, they're always going to cut a break to the people who hate America. Look, as long as you're just offending traditional Americans, Christians, others, or if you could potentially help Democrats, you basically can do whatever you want. That's why all those people are up there just spray painting the statue and throwing stuff at the police officer. This is what they mean when they talk about defending democracy. If a bunch of 20-somethings from Oklahoma, though, threw red paint on the Black Lives Matter mural on 16th Street, which is right across from the park, they'd already been arrested. They'd been arrested on the spot. The DOJ would have held a press conference, would have been a big deal. Large forces of DOJ prosecutors would be bearing down on these people right now. because we know what it looks like when the DOJ wants to get serious and send a message of deterrence.
The FBI is quite familiar with large-scale, complex, and fast-moving investigations. We are up to the challenge. The brutality the American people watched with shock and disbelief on the 6th will not be tolerated by the FBI. The men and women of the FBI will leave no stone unturned in this investigation.
Even this year, they're still sending out DOJ alerts about January 6th. Did you see this guy? It's like someone with a, Did any Democrat on the Hill, though, put a statement out calling for the prosecution of the people who did that in Lafayette Park? It's clearly the policy at this point of the administration and the DOJ that left-wing groups can destroy any statue, they can block any road, they can do any of that as long as the Democratic Party doesn't have to pay any political price. The DOJ doesn't work for you. It works for Joe Biden and the Democrat Party. Now, we told you this from the outset. These statue takedowns and the destruction, it was never about the Confederacy. It wasn't about Robert E. Lee or slaveholders in the 1800s. This was about their hatred of the American story. They do not believe in the Constitution. They do not believe in the Declaration of Independence, or whether we win another war. They don't care about that. And for that matter, they don't care if California, Illinois, New York, they don't care if they go down the drain. Look at what they're doing with the migrants. It doesn't matter to them. And as, again, for these Democrats in Congress, they too know the rules of accountability do not apply to them, not in the same way they do to Republicans. As we told you from the very beginning, if Nancy Pelosi had done her job before January 6th, the breach never would have happened at the Capitol. And now we have proof that she knew she was responsible. This was footage taken by her own daughter the day of the attack.
We did not have any accountability for what was going on there, and we should have. This is ridiculous. You're going to ask me in the middle of the thing when they've already breached the inaugural stuff should we call the Capitol Police? I mean, the National Guard? Why weren't the National Guard there to begin with?
They thought that they had sufficient resources.
That is not a question of how they had been. They don't know. They clearly didn't know, and I take responsibility for not having them just prepare for more.
Yeah, she said she was responsible not once but twice on that tape. The Democrat leadership in charge that day was responsible for how it got out of hand. No wonder they kept those thousands of hours of surveillance footage secret until the Republican House Speaker ordered the release. So by now, I think more Americans see the real privilege out there, the privilege that protects some of the most corrupt people. Politico's Friday report on the Biden money trail is interesting timing, but we know they're probably never going to be held accountable. Doesn't matter how shady their sources of money are, that they're lifelong grifters racking up tens of millions of dollars for their whole family tree, or that Joe Biden lied about not talking to Hunter's foreign business contacts. It's the ultimate privilege, and that's the angle.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.